Debt is like a double-edged sword. It can make you very rich, but it can also ruin you overnight. In this video, we will show you how wealthy people use debt to make more money and how it can be a powerful tool that supports all their dreams and goals. Number 1. Wealthy people build big businesses. The story of debt is nothing new. It began in the 19th century when Rockefeller built businesses that today would be worth $400 billion. Rockefeller wasn't born rich. He was the son of a farmer and dropped out of high school. He didn't do well in school because they didn't teach him anything about money. However, when he got a job as an accounting assistant, he learned about the world of business and realized he could become very rich if he had enough money to start his projects. So, he started a small agricultural products business and borrowed $1,000 from his father. That was his first debt, but it helped him enter the business world. Within 2 years, he earned $17,000. During that time, the oil industry was growing. There was a market for kerosene oil, but extracting it with coal was difficult and expensive. That's why Rockefeller used gasoline instead of coal and manufactured barrels at a much lower cost. These new ideas made bankers and lenders trust him, and they began lending him money under better terms. That's how everything changed for Rockefeller. He used debt to buy smaller competitors and create an oil monopoly. This monopoly allowed him to get discounts from railroads. Now, he could transport kerosene at lower prices, making it affordable even for families with less money. Soon, in the 1860s, the farmer's son became a millionaire at 31, and his company, Standard Oil, refined 90% of the oil in the United States. The most remarkable thing about Rockefeller is that he always paid his debts on time, but he never hesitated to borrow when he saw an opportunity to grow. Number 2. The rich increase their debt. In 2012, when Mark Zuckerberg bought a house, he secured a mortgage with an interest rate of just 1.5%, while the average mortgage rate was around 0.7%. If you're wondering why Zuckerberg got such a low rate, it's because at the time he was worth $15 billion, and bankers were confident he would pay them back. Since lending to Zuckerberg was low risk, bankers were able to offer him a lower interest rate. It's well known that the higher your net worth or credit score, the lower your interest rate. However, many people don't realize what Zuckerberg actually achieved with this deal. First, he moved into the house he loved immediately and will continue living there as long as he wants. Second, he invested his own money in opportunities that will yield much higher returns, even after paying the interest on his debt. And third, he decided to pay off the house over the next 30 years, meaning the real value of those payments will be much lower in the future due to inflation. By not locking up his money upfront, he took advantage of opportunities that will yield high returns, delayed some expenses, and reduced his costs to a small fraction compared to the rise in inflation. Number 3. The rich don't mix things up. When Elon Musk decided to buy Twitter, he borrowed $13 billion, even though his fortune was close to $250 billion. This might seem strange to the average person because, when you have $250 billion, you could surely pay $13 billion without any issues. However, Elon Musk didn't think twice about borrowing money for this purchase. These types of purchases are known as leveraged buyouts. In a leveraged buyout, the borrowed money is backed by the assets of the company being purchased, which in this case is Twitter. So lenders lend money expecting the company to generate profits. Future cash flows will help pay off the debt. Musk bought Twitter not only because he saw it as another profitable business, but also because he considers it a way to drive social change and secure freedom of speech. But this also means Musk has doubts about whether Twitter will be profitable. That's why a leveraged buyout makes even more sense. If Twitter makes money, Elon will get a large share. However, if Twitter is successful, Elon's risk is limited to the money he has invested. Lenders can't force Elon to pay the debt out of his own pocket. They can only recover their money by selling Twitter's assets. Only time will tell if these assets will be enough to pay off the entire debt or not. By borrowing money, Elon ensured that his personal assets were safe and that all his companies maintained their separate legal identities. Lenders can't ask him to sell his Tesla shares, worth $94 billion, to cover the purchase of Twitter. This way, Elon Musk can continue living his luxurious life without worrying about anything. Number 4. The rich generate cash flow. The wealthy like to buy assets and hold onto them forever. They like to pass these assets onto their children, as they know their value will increase, so they prefer to take care of their family rather than being debt-free. However, this doesn't mean they will let any great investment opportunity pass them by. While their money is tied up in assets that aren't easily sold, they generate liquidity by borrowing and take advantage of business opportunities that yield profits. In April 2023, Mukesh Ambani, chairman of Reliance Industries, secured the largest loan in the history of Indian companies. Ambani borrowed $5.5 billion to implement 5G across the country, but that amount doesn't even represent 7% of his total wealth of $82 billion. Ambani's 27-story house costs $2 billion, and he owns properties worldwide. With just some of those properties, he could have easily financed the 5G rollout without borrowing money. However, he did it because he wanted to leave his assets to his 3 children, who could help India reach 2% of its GDP by 2030. The implementation of 5G could generate economic growth of $180 billion, and no one knows this better than Mr. Ambani, a major telecommunications entrepreneur. Therefore, passing up this opportunity due to a lack of cash and the kind of decision expected from him. He would rather borrow money now and pay it off with the profits he earns from 5G in the future, rather than sit back and watch other telecommunications companies take away his market share. Number 5. Wealthy people don't accept salaries. Although we've all heard about the billion-dollar homes, expensive cars, and luxurious vacations that the wealthy around the world spend their money on, a much lesser-known fact is that they don't pay for all of this with their salary. In 2021, Elon Musk shared the secret behind such a luxurious lifestyle in a tweet. "I only have stocks, so the only way to pay taxes personally is by selling stocks." While most Twitter users simply scroll past such tweets, very few know how to interpret what it really means. Elon Musk doesn't receive a salary, but he owns Tesla shares worth billions of dollars. However, he doesn't sell them either and still lives a very luxurious lifestyle. The secret is that he borrows money using the shares as collateral and lives off that debt. This gives him 2 advantages. First, he doesn't have to pay taxes. Debt is borrowed money and isn't taxed, even though he still has money in his bank account that he can spend as he pleases. Second, he doesn't actually sell his Tesla shares because doing so would make him pay capital gains taxes. He only uses the shares as collateral to secure the loan. Some even call it a permanent line of credit. Suppose he gets a loan with a 6% interest rate. All he needs to ensure is that Tesla grows by at least 6% when he has to pay off that debt. He takes out another loan against the same shares and pays off the first debt. This cycle continues, and Musk lives the life we can only dream of. Number 6. The wealthy enjoy real estate. I can't imagine paying the mortgage on a house that the wealthy have borrowed to buy multiple properties around the world, and the surprising thing is that they don't even live in those houses. Another surprise is that, despite having billions of dollars, they borrow money to buy properties worth only millions. For example, Elon Musk borrowed $61 million to buy 5 houses in California in 2018, even though he could have paid for them outright. But what does the average person lose in this process? Ordinary people only borrow money when they need to buy something they can't afford. However, the wealthy borrow even when they can pay in cash. The main reason for this is that debt isn't taxed. So, let's see how the real estate business works. Suppose you find a property worth $1 million, borrow 80% from the bank, and get 20% from investors. If your debt payment is $100,000 and the property maintenance costs are $20,000, then your total expenses are $120,000. Now, if you can rent the property for $140,000, you can buy it without using your own money, and the best part of this income is that you won't have to pay taxes. This is because you can apply property depreciation. each year. This isn't an actual expense that takes money out of your pocket, but a cost considered for the wear and tear of the property, which you can deduct from your income. In our example, you can depreciate the building at a standard industry rate. The common depreciation rate for real estate is 39%, meaning you can depreciate $1 million over 39 years, or $25,000 each year. Since the depreciation is greater than your income of $20,000, it shows a tax loss of less than $5,641, while you still have $20,000 in your bank account to spend as you please.